What's up, Amazon sellers? Today I am joined by a good friend of mine and someone I've interviewed previously, Daniel Gillmore, and previously he was absolutely smashing it and a lot of people took inspiration from his video, but you know what, it's been 2 years and I want to share an update on where he is at in his journey because oh my god, he has achieved some amazing results. So Daniel, thank you so much for joining me. If anyone doesn't know who you are, can you just introduce yourself and tell us what you achieved in the last 12 months in your Amazon business?
First of all, hello Thomas. Thank you for having me on your YouTube again, I guess, or your interview. My name is Daniel. I am an Amazon seller. I've been selling now for over 4 years. And in terms of achievements, I've unfortunately gone over threshold and I've done just under £400,000 sales in the last 12 months and achieved just under £90,000 profit. I've now got a team of 3 people, outsource most of my prepping and live in the Amazon dream life.
My
completely
God.
different to,
That is incredible. And the reason why I just say is because I remember the last interview we had 2 years ago. And you're saying just under 90,000, I think about 85 you're saying. And you were staying under the 85,000 revenue 2 years ago. So now you've achieved that as in gross profits. Yeah. So I think if anyone's watching, that is an incredible story. What I will say is everyone is watching and they want to watch the original story from Daniel, do watch it. I'll put a link up here so you can see that original interview 2 years ago. And that was like May 2020. But let's just bring it back. Tell us about that interview. Where were you at in your business? And then tell us through that journey going on to now.
So after the interview, unfortunately, some magical stuff happened and we found out that my partner was pregnant. And my life kind of flipped and I started reflecting on where I am at the moment. And I said, okay, if I want to afford a family or etc., I need to do something different with my life. Or my business life, sorry. So I looked at it and I said, okay, if I stay under threshold, there's no way I can grow my business. I cannot expand. I cannot achieve the income that I need to support, my family. So I sat down and I said, okay, I guess it's time to do 85k profit, not revenue. And I completely changed the view of Amazon in general. So I started to look at it as a potential business, as a potential limited company, or much bigger than what I even thought of doing with it. So yeah, that was my first reason or my why for growing. Yeah. I guess
if anyone just wants to know, so where were you at when we had that interview? Just describe as to like revenue, profitability, and what was your model? Why were you
so at the time it was I was aiming to do, I think something like £7,000 a month in revenue and work as little as possible. I think I aimed to work about 10 hours a month at the tops and kind of just look for high ROI products, buy in bulk and just sell it. That was literally keeping it as simple as possible. I prepped everything myself at home. I spent very, very little time. Just look what I wanted. I looked at, what worked, what products worked, what sold well. And then just did very simple. I didn't do much at all. When people ask me what I did for living, I said, I don't know. I just, it's just easy, it's just doing this, and I didn't really treat it as work. So revenue was around just under 84,000, I think, at the time that we spoke, and I think it was about £18,000 profit or something. I can't remember from the top of my head, but nothing compared to what I'm doing now. Yeah.
And if I just ask, so if you said 84, now there's a reason you were 84, wasn't there? So if anyone doesn't know, what was that?
It's because I didn't want to go over the threshold. I was too afraid of being VAT registered because, you hear a lot of scary stories about how much you lose, how much money you lose, how much work you have to do. There was a lot of worries, and I said, I don't want to live a stressful life, as that's what I thought it would be. And I said to myself, I just want to have a simple life. So I didn't really want to go over the threshold because I think most people are in the same situation when they start the business, especially something like Amazon. I think they all are afraid of what would happen if you go over the threshold. It's a great area for a lot of beginners. So I was one of them, and I just didn't want that hassle. I felt very comfortable staying under the 85,000. Yeah.
Wow. So the idea was that when you go over 85,000, which is the UK VAT threshold, you incur obviously VAT, so that's a tax, value-added tax, but also there's additional paperwork. Is that right?
A lot of paperwork, yeah. And you start thinking about which stores you can use that are VAT registered, which produce invoices, a lot of these things. And I was like, I don't want to do this. I want to just live a simple life. And changed a little bit.
Quick question for you. A lot of people will probably looked at that journey and looked at you and said, that sounds perfect. 10 hours a month. That sounds like my kind of job that I want to do. Is that would you say on reflection that's like a dangerous place to be in, or I don't know, or were you like, actually I quite liked it?
I loved it. I love staying under the threshold. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, and I would encourage a lot of people to do that if this suits your lifestyle. For me, the lifestyle was not there anymore, so my life completely changed. I had to be more responsible and try to find some ways to make more money. But if you are in that situation where you just want to do Amazon kind of on a part-time basis, you don't want to spend too much time on it, you want a simple, process, then I think staying under the threshold is perfectly fine. And I would encourage many people to do so if it suits your lifestyle. But if it doesn't, then the other way is just as fine. And I don't think people should be discouraged of going over £85,000. Yeah. It's nothing to be afraid of.
Agree, and I think it's an interesting point. It's about your personal circumstances and what you wanted. And when we had that interview, you were very happy, enjoying it. But obviously, since then, obviously you had the news. Obviously, you had a child coming, and obviously congratulations, and that was like Thank 2 you. Years ago. So obviously you're a super busy man now. So talk us through that journey. So you're at right now. You're running a business which is under the VAT threshold. Living the dream, 10 hours a month. I think we worked it out about £70 per hour, which is incredible. What kind of things did you need to consider to think about now you're going to breach the VAT threshold? What were you thinking about? Tell us about that.
Okay, so I think this is a very important thing that I want to share, because I think a lot of people that might be listening to this think about it. First of all, don't panic. Do not be afraid of taking this step, and this is my way of doing it, and I think the way I did it is the most stress-free process. Okay, step one, I will put it in steps. Okay, so step one, speak to the right people. Okay, because it's very, very important to understand how things work after. And my way of thinking, I said to myself, there is no way I will rush to get to where I want to be. So I started planning very early on. I started planning about 2 months before even considering going over that threshold. So my first step was I actually spoke to you. I asked a few questions. I spoke to Luke Filer, which I'm sure many people would know, and I spoke to Vlad, and I got different people's perspectives on how they do their business when they went over the threshold, let's say, or let's call it 7-figure businesses, how they operate, how they do their business. So I wanted to find out exactly how they do it. Once I learned their way of doing the business, I said, okay, how do I prepare to that point? And how do I get there? So when I do get it, I feel very, very comfortable. So step two, I got in touch with an accountant. I spoke to them and I said, okay, what do I need to do? Give me a list of things that I need to be prepared for in terms of how to do my paperwork, which softwares to use, what to expect, how much it will cost me in accountancy fees and whatnot. So I spoke to them in very detail. I think I annoyed all of them, all the accountants, because I asked the most ridiculous questions, and some questions they would look at me and go, I've never heard this question before, but I had to know. Because for me, I told you, as I said earlier, it was such a great area, so scary to cross it, because I was like, I don't want to be stressed. I hate being stressed out. When I'm stressed, I get headaches, I get everything. I was like, I don't want to be stressed. So for me, it was very important to know that. So once I learned that very important thing, so once I covered the step 2, which is accountancy, I went to my step 3, which is prepare the way I run my business. So that was creating a specific spreadsheet to pretend I am already VAT registered. And the reason why this is important is so I could calculate profit per unit sold as if I was VAT registered. So I wasn't VAT registered at the time. I think I just registered for the limited company. But I was like, I'm going to prepare and pretend I am already VAT registered, because this is really, really important. Because if I do not know how much money I will make per unit sold or per unit sourced as a VAT registered company, how will I prepare for that? So once I covered that, COVID lockdown started, and I said, all right, so what do we do now? And that was my step 4, raising capital. So I borrowed £10,000 from a friend. So at the time I had, I think, around £15,000 in inventory and about 10,000 in capital. I flipped that 10,000 using your method, flipping money as many times as possible. And that's how you create a lot of profit. I borrowed £10,000. I flipped that 3 times. And I remember, so I registered in October. By January, I was VAT registered. Within literally 3 months, I crossed the £85,000 threshold as a limited company. After that, gosh, I'm talking so many steps here, but I hope I'm okay with that. So I think now we're in step 5. So I got to step 5 and it was around February, and I decided, okay, I'm now VAT registered. I need to grow this business. I was at around 80 something thousand pound in revenue. And I said, okay, I need to now move this business beyond what I ever expected it to be. So I hired my first VA, and I hired through FastTrackFBA, and simply because I was, again, I sound like a complete chicken, but I was afraid to hire my first VA. As a person that I am, I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to ask. I don't know how to interview people. I do not know the process, nothing. And I don't even know where to start. So using services such as FastTrackFBA given me a huge confidence in the fact that once the person is hired, I don't have to train them as much. They will be aware of what's happening. They understand the business, etc., etc. So it takes a lot of that pressure off me and gives it to you guys, And so I hired my first VA, and she's still with us since the day we hired her. She's actually been promoted now to an admin role, which I'm very, very proud of and very, very pleased. She's been an absolute, I wouldn't even know how to describe it, but she's probably been the most important person in the company, because she encouraged me, probably in very indirect way, to hire more people, because I've seen the potential of taking a load off your shoulders and passing it on to somebody else. And it really freed up a lot of that time in my life. So I don't have to do sourcing anymore. I don't even have to do certain admin things anymore. So that stress that I was so afraid of before being VAT registered has been taken away simply by hiring one individual. And so since then we hired another 2 members of staff. So we have a team of 3 people now, outsourcer prepping. And I feel like, I'm in the place where I was a year ago when we had, 2 years ago when we had the interview, when I said, I'm stress-free, running this business, enjoying life. I'm exactly back in the same place, but over the threshold, and close to £500,000 in revenue, in 12 months. So, I mean, not quite close, but getting there. So I hope that kind of breaks it down, my journey. I don't know if that answers your question, but this was the sort of my process, and something that I'm quite pleased about.
Wow, that's incredible. Thank you. Honestly, thank you so much. I remember in the last interview we did a number. We worked out how much profit you were generating per hour worked. So you kind of done the comparison there, whereby you went through, should we say, a rough patch, which is about getting over that threshold, hired VAs, figured that out, and now you're kind of back there. But now obviously you're doing what you were doing in revenue then, now in profits, which is obviously game changing 2 years later. So question for you, we know the profit side. What about the hours worked? How many hours are you doing right now?
Right now, probably not a lot. But throughout, I think Q4 did a little bit more work than usual, obviously, because it's a little bit busy, and I was still prepping myself, and I was prepping something like 1,000 units a week, so it was a bit hectic. But on an average month, I would say I work 2 hours a day, maybe. So something around that. Depends on how much I need to do. But most of the time, an average 2 hours. Sometimes, to be honest, I haven't worked much this month, or since mid of December until today, I haven't worked much at all. So on average, I spend maybe 2 to 3 hours a day.
And is that before when you were doing your prep, or is it now since Christmas?
Even including with prep, 3 hours,
Okay, cool. So I just want to do some maths because I remember doing this last time and I think it's going to be really interesting. So we're going to take 85,000, we'll divide it by 12, so we get about 7,000 profit per month. And then the idea is you're doing about 3 hours a day, I think, with prep. You're saying 5 days a week.
We'll take 3 hours. I would say let's take 15 hours a week. I would say. I think that's like top. Yeah.
15. We times by 4.3, so that's 64.5 hours. 64.5 hours. So let's do 7,000 divided by 64.5 Well done. You're on £108 per hour. You were on 70, now you're on 108. How does that feel?
I didn't even know.
And by the way, that's with you doing prep, and I know you expressed that in December you transitioned into a prep center, and you're now no longer doing that. So if you continue the same rate, you're going to lose a bit of profit, but your hours are going down.
Not necessarily. So that's £80,000. So for the way I did it, part of my system as well was that I always include a 70p for prep. Now my prep, the actual prep cost is around 58 pence per unit with my current prep center. So I was actually charging myself more for prep back in the day. So my profit is probably higher than that.
Wow.
So
how does it feel now? £108 per hour.
It still feels the same. Just I'm just very grateful, to be honest, where I am, and I'm very proud of myself for how I achieved it, because I didn't even know how much I was earning. It feels quite good.
Hey, honestly, I take my hat off to you, and I think I still remember 2 years ago you were living a wonderful life, and I really understood your reasoning to stay below the VAT threshold. And I remember a lot of people watched that video and took inspiration from it, and I know a lot of people contacted you. But then obviously the situation's changed, and you now went through that turmoil. And there's a very common question. I'm going through the VAT threshold. What do I need to know? We'll touch on that a little bit more. But I think respect to you and the fact that you've now gone through it and you've managed to return your life back to the way it was. And now you're more profitable. And obviously this is about now providing for your family, which is and you can keep growing, which I think there is no ceiling, is there?
Absolutely. And this is actually going back to me and you had a conversation. I think it was even either before the interview or just after, or maybe probably after. When we spoke, I said, I prefer staying on the threshold. And you kind of touched it on, saying that once you go over the threshold, the sky's the limit. You can do anything and everything. You can grow the business in every direction in so many ways, And I never really thought about it that way. But now when I'm here, I'm like, if I want to expand into Europe, I can. If I want to go to America, I can. If I want to do it, I can. There's so many more opportunities with the business, the way you can grow it, the way you want to do it. You can do so much more. When you're under the threshold, you kind of just are moving along. But when you once you go over the VAT threshold and you are a VAT registered company, it's just so much more fun. You can do so many things and you're not limited to anything. The only thing that you're limited is your own imagination, Yeah, so for me, it's so much fun now. I love it.
And you're so right. I mean, you talked about there. You spoke to myself. You spoke to Luke Filer. You spoke to Vlad as well. All of us are doing businesses, but they're not the only thing we're doing. We're doing other stuff, and those guys are doing some amazing numbers. And what's really interesting is that they're doing amazing numbers, not really working very much, which is really incredible. And I think that's a really nice thing to be able to see, and also to see it replicated. And, my God, I know you shared your figures. Your profitability is way higher than mine, and it's really interesting to see. And there's so many different ways to do this business. Thank you so much for that. I think the question I kind of ask is: you talked about the process of going through VAT, the steps. I think there's 6, maybe 7. Don't quote me on that one. There's quite a lot. But what was it like? You took decisions to hire VAs. Why did you hire a VA? What's the reason?
I just remember that I knew that I can't do it all by myself. It's the fact. I cannot do it by myself, and I don't think not many people can. I mean, some people are against having VAs. So to be honest, I was one of those. I was like, no, I don't need no VA. I don't need no VAs. I don't need no prep center. It's easy job. I can do all. But then once I got to the point, and I said, I read the book 4 Hour Week. It was mentioned that you have to get rid of certain tasks or eliminate the tasks that bring in the least amount of value kind of to you. So you have to allocate your time to things that actually you are good at or things that you can do to grow your business. So I had to allocate my time to different things. So bringing in another pair of hands, an extra pair of hands, let's say, really helped me to focus on other things. So I focus more on the macro things within the business. I still did sourcing, don't get me wrong, and I still do sourcing simply because I do slightly different sourcing. So my VAs do what I would call in my business micro sourcing. So it's something like they would do little things here, little items, and I focus on bulk buying other type of products, very high value products. This was one of the reasons why I succeeded so well. So I looked at other areas of the business where I'm very good at finding certain things. So I wanted them to do all these little things that I don't really have the time to do. So like scanning every single store, doing this. So now having 3 VAs, we scan maybe 15 stores a day. Yeah. So I can't do 15 stores a day all by myself and still have time to eat. So, I had to do it. This was the reason I said I can cover more stores, source more products, or find more deals, etc. If I had a team, if I'm by myself, there's no way I can scan 1,000 products a day. There's no way. So I had to have a team. And this was the reason why I hired.
Because if I'm just trying to confirm the message that it's about you and who you are, you really value the quality of life, which is about the working hours. And obviously you've got a family now, so that's a very big part of it. But also as well, you knew you had to go over the limits. So it was about, I needed to get some help. And I'm guessing it was kind of overcoming that kind of limiting belief that only I can do it. And now...
Yeah. 100%. That was so scary. It's thinking that somebody else can do a job better than you can. That's always the scariest part. But yeah, they do a better job than I do. So unfortunately, so I get a bit embarrassed sometimes. But yeah.
And hey, and don't get me wrong, you're good at this. You know what you're looking for, you're sourcing. But the funny thing is I see it in my own business, whereby it's like, you're good at something, you teach someone else. Of course, they're not as good as you to start with, but they're doing 8 hours a day non-stop. And eventually there will become a point where the student becomes the teacher. And you're like, okay, you're better than me now. But hey, well done.